everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm like trying to conceal my excitement because I have one of my closest friends here with me. Actually, sister.
My sister.
We're blood at this point.
Yeah.
But this is Melissa Effa. She is a director and writer, amongst many things. So she is going to be joining us to talk a lot about her experience growing up as a first gen. You were born in America, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't. I just want to make sure. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think particularly Melissa is Melissa was my first friend and mentor when I first moved out in LA.
Okay.
And it was actually so divine because we met at one of our mutual friends' birthday party about like 2018. 18. And then I was like, hey, I'm trying to move out to LA. I want to be an actress. I want to do this, yada, yada, yada. And Melissa's like, all right, sis, come on, let's go. Like, what you want to do? So I'm like, okay, Mel, like, well, okay. So like she was doing an event. She does an annual LA homecoming event, and it was her first annual event. And she was like, well, I'm throwing this event. You want to fly to LA? You can stay with me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, what? Like, you would open your home to me? So, like, I flew to LA the next summer. Actually, no, it was that year.
Yeah.
It was that year. I flew to LA. Mind you, I talked to this girl maybe 3 times, 2 times max. I flew to LA and I was like, hey, yeah, so I'm going to help you. What do you need? What's up? And I just helped her with the event. But I also, we created a bond during that weekend where it was just like, wow, we have so many similarities. Mm-hmm. And I look up to her so much because particularly I consider you a trailblazer.
Wow.
I do consider you a trailblazer because coming from the small community that I grew up in, you also were raised in the Metro Atlanta area. Coming from that community, you're definitely someone for me that I was like, what? She's Nigerian?
Wow.
And she's in entertainment? Like, what? Like, oh my freaking gosh. Because I had struggled so much to find someone that approved of the path that I kept feeling like God was calling me to. So I would love for you to talk about, like, your experience of, like, how did you get into entertainment?
Yeah.
And what was, like, that conversation? What did that conversation look like?
Yeah.
With your parents when you were like, hey, like, I'm gonna be in the entertainment industry.
Right. Yeah. So it was definitely a process. And it took some time for them to get adjusted. So, okay. So for clarity, I'm half Bahamian and half Nigerian.
Yes.
And both of my parents are doctors.
Yes. Oh.
So
that's the trifecta.
The standard was already set
beyond the roof
as soon as I was born.
Yeah.
So I noticed when I was I had a desire for acting. I had a desire for modeling at first. I used to be obsessed with America's Next Top Model, watch it all the time. And so when I was 13, I told my mom oh, I think I want to model. And then she was my mom was always very supportive. So my parents weren't together. And so I lived with my mom, but obviously I saw my dad all the time. But my mom was super, super supportive of my dreams. She just wanted me to do something that was I had a degree.
Yes.
So at the time I was gonna be a lawyer. That was my thing since I was a teenager. So I did this, I went to this, I found this modeling thing where you audition, but it was really a scam. But it opened the door for me to desire modeling and acting, because the person at the audition was like, are you an actor too? And my mom was like, oh yeah, she does all these voices. She made me talk in a Nigerian accent. She made me do all this stuff. So that was kind of what opened the door. Then I started taking acting classes. And then in high school, my senior year, I did a broadcasting class. And mind you, that summer I did a law internship before my senior year, the summer before. And that was when I found out that wait, because I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. And this internship was it was a corporate law internship, but there was someone there that was a lawyer over sports, like people in sports. And he was like, being a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer is not fun. He was like, if you want to be in entertainment, you should just be in entertainment. And I was like, wow, okay. And there was someone at the law internship, the daughter of the person who started the firm, she was going to school in LA. So she was the one who told me about LMU. I'd never heard about Loyola Marymount before, but she was telling me about all these schools that were good in LA. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I took this broadcasting class in high school, and that was my first time behind the camera. Mm. I got to write things, and I created my own show. It was called Eminem Entertainment. Okay. I was telling the entertainment news.
Come on, girl.
And so that was when I was like, that was when I felt like my desire for behind the camera was unlocked. But I still was like, I'll be an entertainment attorney, but I'll be like an actress on the side. Like, that was my thing. Then when I eventually got into LMU, went to LMU, it was a wrap. Like, as soon as I was on set, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I told my mom, I told both of my parents that, like, yeah, I think I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to focus on this. And my mom was like, both of them were very taken aback. I don't even think my dad heard me because I had to rehab this conversation with him when I graduated. But my mom was like, it took her a while because she was like, okay, but like, are you going to get your master's in something? Are you going to get like your PhD in film? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to like go for it. And what really inspired me at the time was Issa Rae, who's also West African. And Awkward Black Girl was out at the time. And one of my film teachers, it's my sophomore year, showed it in our class. And I remember being like, oh my God. Like, you can just create your own project and put it out there, and like, you don't have to wait for anyone. Because at the time, in college especially, even after college, I was trying to like pursue acting, and it just wasn't working. I wasn't getting an agent. I wasn't like, nothing was moving. And in college, I was like, I just thought it was so dope to see a woman that looked like me and had a similar experience. Like, Awkward Black Girl spoke to me. I was like, I'm awkward and I'm Black, and I'm like. And just seeing someone like that was showcasing a different character that we usually see, and just do it, that really inspired me. And so that's what like led to me creating my own web series, and like the rest is history.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about your mom's reaction. What was your dad's reaction? When you
so my dad was against it. My dad was very against it at first. Period. Like, he was just, okay, so again, I told him my freshman year. But again, I just don't think he heard me. Yeah. Then when I was graduating, I remember like literally the day before graduation, we had like a lunch or something. He came out to LA and he was like, so are you going to start like applying to law school? And then I was like, no. No, I'm not, because I'm not going to be a lawyer. And he was like, what? What are you talking about? Okay,
so he literally just put it, like, his mind went off.
Yeah, like he was just like, I'm not hearing that. So he was just very confused and very like, so what are you going to do? Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a director. And that's the thing too, is like, I wanted to do everything. And even other people didn't understand that. I had like film teachers be like, you can't be everything. You have to pick one thing. Yeah. So even for him, it's like, what? You're going to do all that? So we would keep having these conversations. When I did my web series, I went to him and because I was like, Dad, I need money to make this web series. I was like it was actually the pilot at first. And then he was willing to give it to me. Like, he was going to give it to me. I had a whole presentation. Everybody who knows who has a Nigerian parent, like, you can't just come. Yeah. You have to come correct. Mm-hmm. You need to have everything in a row when you ask. Mm-hmm. So I had a whole presentation. I had the budget. And he was like, instead of doing this, you need to be finding a job. You need to be finding, like, how is this going to help you? And, like, I just was like, it is going to help me. Like, I knew I couldn't physically show, but he just, it was for a long time. Then I feel like there was a shift when he started seeing that things were moving for me. Yeah. Like, when I actually sold the web series, I was making money from it. When I started making money is when he was like, okay. So then
there always has to be like a proof of concept.
Exactly.
For them to really understand what's happening.
Yeah, especially when it's completely out of their realm.
Sphere of a professional career. It's like, what is happening? Yeah. And I think that's so interesting because it's like, you know, these professional careers where it's like lawyers, doctors, what is it? Lawyer, doctor, and engineer. That's the trifecta of like, if you are Nigerian,
that's what you have to choose.
In the Bahamian culture, is it also like that?
Honestly, I feel like in the Bahamian culture, it is similar, but I wouldn't say it's as like stringent. But I would say that most people are focused on like the professional realm, like or what we know as the professional realm.
Yes, and I think like for me, like growing up, I literally said like I'm gonna be a doctor. Like my mom, she was a nurse. My dad, he was a serial entrepreneur. I don't know where I got doctor from, but like I just wanted to help people. And like when you're looking at careers, you think being a doctor is the only way to help people.
Yeah.
Or like being somewhere in the health field is the only way to help people.
Yeah.
So even choosing the career, I was like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna help people. This is how I'm gonna like serve the world.
Yeah.
And I think like even like going to college, there's always something that clicks in college where it's like, okay, this is who I am. This is where I'm supposed to be. And like I used to say like, oh, you know, like go to college to get an education. But I feel like I eventually learned through college that you go to college to find who you are. And you also go to like build a network that's going to help you accelerate to who you are becoming. So that for me was definitely something that like I changed my major so many times because I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And I was only familiar with those three fields of like lawyer, doctor, entertainer that I didn't realize there was a whole like entertainment industry. There's like a financial industry. There were all these industries that I knew nothing about until I stepped into college and was able to learn about that. So even like talking to like my parents, I feel like your story, I was like, okay, everyone just blessed over here because it's the way I didn't hear no tears. I didn't hear no like, for me, I fought tooth and nail for this career. And I'm just like, I'm only saying because like, it's so beautiful when you talk to someone that has a different experience because then it's like, wow, like I see you now and you're such a bold and strong young lady. And I'm like, what kind of upbringing did it take to become who you are?
Yeah.
And like I can clearly see those signs just through what you told me. And I think for me, like there was a whole bunch of like, okay, conflicts to kind of really discover myself that like set me back so much where I know that like even when I told my parents that like I was gonna be an actress, they were like, oh, for like a side job, like, you know, as a hobby. And it's like you see these entertainment careers, director, writers as like things that don't pay the bill. So like everyone just like kind of looks at it, well, coming from like my experience with where I was raised, like I knew people looked at it as like, oh, that's not a real job. Like, how are you going to, what about the 15 years it takes to get there? So you're going to be broke? Like, what does that look like for you? So like, I think like particularly, is there like any like, like how easy was it for you to really like take the step and be like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do? Like knowing like your parents supported you to an extent, both of them have their own different ways of doing it, but like what did that look for you to be like, all right, I'm just gonna do this, like this is how I was raised, but this is what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I would say that like if it wasn't for, because like I said, my mom, even though it was like, are you going to go back to school? She still wants me to go back to school because that's like been ingrained in her education, especially my dad as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the case for all Nigerians. But I would say if it wasn't for my mom, which I don't think a lot of people do have some sort of like supporter in that way, like a parent that is supportive, I don't think I would have moved with such boldness. But I did have a lot of moments where I felt like I had to defend myself with like family members. People were like, what are you doing? Or you need to have like a plan B. And in those moments, like I remember before I sold hard medicine, it was like the winter before I was like Christmas time. I was with family and my aunt was like, she pulled me to the side and she was just like, I think you need to start like focusing on a different career. And at the time I was like, it was 2016. So I was 23?
Yeah.
She was like, I think you need to start focusing on a different career because like, you know, your mom's not going to say this, but like she's concerned, you know, which is not true. She was just like, you know, you don't want to be like depending on your mom financially, which I really wasn't. But she was like, you need to probably consider another career. And people kept pushing me to be a lawyer because I'm really good at debating.
Debating. 100%.
So people kept pushing it. And I remember crying because I was like, they don't understand. And then I remember that was the Christmas time when La La Land was out, which I don't know if you watched it. But it's a movie about people going after their dreams. And I was like, I felt like God was speaking to me in that movie. And like literally the next year is when, things were moving for me. So I would say like definitely my mom. And again, a lot of people don't have that. But I will say being a Nigerian also helped me like push past obstacles, because I feel like the reason why a lot of us choose to be a doctor, because I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid, and then I was like, I don't want to be a doctor because I hate blood. So lawyer, we only have 3 choices. So lawyer. But I think the reason why a lot of us choose doctor, because like in our heads or what we've been taught, that's the highest goal, right?
And you're always, the level of success is always up here.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, what can I do to like make sure that I am the most successful, the proudest, the like most like make my parents the proudest, like things like that. Because you're even like coming from like a home community that I was raised up in, it was like success is everything. Not only for how you see yourself, but how people see you and perceive what you're doing. So it's definitely something where it's like, okay, what can I do? How can I make you proud? How can I make you happy? And it's always about them, as opposed to me individually. Because even your mom was born in the Bahamas, right?
Yeah.
So even like her journey to come to America, that's something where it's like, I came to America to give you like a life that you're going to love.
Right.
And you're telling me you want to step aside and pursue happiness and purpose. Like, that don't pay the bills. Like, what are you doing? How is the community going to see us? And there's a lot of like, even like your experience with your aunt, there's a lot of perception that goes into certain decisions where like people are saying this is what you should do because this is how you should be perceived.
Right.
This is what we're seeing and this is where you need to go based off of what we're observing.
Yeah.
So I think even with your experience, like, there's the level of success you had to attain was like, you can still achieve that within what you're doing now.
Right.
But then what did that look like as you're trying to like explain this and talk through everything?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like, they're not going to get it. And that's what I had to like come to terms with, is like, they're not going to get it until they see it. But like what I was saying was that like, I think because Nigerians, we strive to be excellent. It's like embedded in us. Like our parents, a lot of them came over to this country, and Nigerians are the most educated group of people even in the United States. So we like don't take no for an answer naturally. And so I feel like that mindset was ingrained in me, and that helped me towards like being like, I don't care what you have to say. And honestly, it wasn't until my father passed away. So my father passed away early this year, as you know. It wasn't until he passed away and I met with a former coworker of his that's like a sister, and she told me that, your dad would talk about you all the time, how you like bucked the Nigerian tradition and you went off on your own path.
Come on.
And this and that. And I was like, oh my God, because he never like told that to me. I could feel that he felt that way after time, but I didn't know that's how he felt. So I feel like even though, we can feel like in the beginning, especially, like our family doesn't understand us. The people that I love and I want to make proud doesn't understand us. You have to go after what God puts inside, because it's way bigger than you. And it's like, they're not going to get it because it's unfamiliar to them. Yes. So just like with anything that's unfamiliar, and we're talking about tradition and like culture, this has been passed down for generations, and like, it's generational. So we have to give them grace, but also be like, I'm going to do it regardless, and then you're going to catch up, type of thing.
That's so crazy, because I might have a very similar story with my dad. I never hear him be like, oh, like, I'm proud. Like, he'll say it once in a while, but like, I don't hear it as often. And then like, I'll meet his friends and his coworkers. They're like, your dad talks about you guys all the time. Like, he is so proud of you. And then like, he will like, my sister released a song and he like is blasting her music to his friends. Like he put me on a billboard in Atlanta. Like he's doing things where like had I like not taken these steps, because in the beginning, always in the beginning, they're like, what are you doing? Like, but like when you step out of like what the culture looks like and just follow like what your heart is saying, what God is saying, then it's like, okay, wait, something's happening here that I didn't see, but now I support. Yeah. And I can like stand behind. But also like, let's take a step back. Let's take a few steps back. So, like just even growing up, what was that experience like? Knowing, just being in a community of Bahamians and Nigerians, and also trying to find yourself within like all of these different structures and rules.
Yeah, I feel like it was very challenging to see where I fit, because not only am I half Nigerian and half Bahamian, but I was born in America. So I am American. I was born in Atlanta. So I feel like there's all these pieces culturally that like I don't all the way fit into or all the way fully have a knowing of completely, because I'm split 3 ways basically. Yes. So I feel like with identity, because I was ashamed of my Nigerian identity, honestly. I did not like my last name because people were making fun of me in school. A lot of Black Americans would, you know, be really like mean when it came to anything that had to do with being African. So, I feel like it wasn't until honestly after
Black Panther
high
came
school,
out.
not that late, but like it wasn't until like maybe like after high school when I started to like coming out of that space that I was like, yo, being African is lit, you know? And then you start thinking back to a lot of the things that like the community aspect, like you were talking about, like I feel like having that support system and just like a shared culture is something that like a lot of people don't have. Like there's a richness that I appreciated. Because there's so many people. So I'm an only child, but like I have a huge extended family. But then there's like the extended family of people that are like Nigerian. You know what I'm saying? That I think is just such a beautiful thing. And it definitely all of that. Like I feel like God made me half Bahamian, half Nigerian, and born in Atlanta to represent the diaspora.
Everything.
To represent all of Black people, because I understand all sides. So when I'm talking to someone from the Caribbean or talking to someone from West Africa or Africa or someone who's Black America, I can understand them and find a bridge. Yes. Because I feel like, and it has like fostered my passion for unity amongst all Black people. Yes. So I have a deep appreciation for it. And so it's just interesting how like God turned something that was like I just wish that I was just like one thing, or, you know, I could like fully be like, I have a knowing of all things in one culture, because then I feel like it would be easier. But no, it's like God used that so that I can be a bridge to all of us. Yes, I love that. And like, it's your experiences, you're literally juggling 3 whole cultures. Like you have American culture, which in itself is still developing, but like you have American culture, Black American culture, and then also like African American culture, and then also like Bahamian culture and Nigerian. Like you have all of these things where it's like each one is like asking a different thing of you. And I know for me, like growing up, like I used to when it came to just like being a Nigerian in school, you always hear about, have you heard of Akata? Yeah. Okay. You always get it from both sides. Yes. I'm over here going to school, you know, trying to like get some friends. Like all of my friends were Black. I only went to a Black school. I only knew Black people. But then it's like going home and it's like, okay, why are you talking to Akatas? And then as soon as like I started growing up, I'm like, wait, hold on. Is being Black wrong? Because there is a sense of pride in Nigerian culture that it's like, we are the top, we are the best. Yeah. So I was like, wait, is something wrong with like just being African American, like being Black in America? Is there something wrong with that? And like, I would always be like, okay, wait, no, I'm Nigerian, I'm not Black. Only because I was raised with this pride that like being Nigerian is in my blood, but also everyone who is not us is like,
the white people, Oyibo, the Akata people, it's like, okay, wait, what are you doing? So like I always had a code switch.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I had a code switch from being, if I was at home, you would hear my Nigerian accent. If I was in school, you would I talk black.
Right.
You know, I would hear my
over
friends.
Here studying like hip hop music.
Yes.
I can be able to assimilate.
Yes.
Or people to, I don't know, be popular.
Yes.
So yeah.
I didn't even realize it was a problem until I think maybe college, when I was like, wait, I actually discovered the just beauty of being Black in America. And it's so distinctive because I think just being an immigrant, you have this history that you're fighting. Well, I immigrated to America when I was 4 with my family.
Yeah.
So being an immigrant, you have this culture that you're fighting and this environment that's telling you to be like them. So for me, I was always wait, my family's telling me I shouldn't be like you because of what they've perceived through media and how Black people have been shown. So what does it actually mean to be Black in America? And now I have so much pride in just saying hey, I'm Black.
Yeah.
And this is encompassing my Nigerian culture, my American culture, because yes, I was born in Nigeria, but if I go back to Nigeria, they're over here looking at me like I'm American.
Right.
They're over here no, you're not us because you're not Nigerian enough. And then the Americans are you're not American enough.
Yeah.
So then it's I'm actually Nigerian American, and I had to learn how to be that and merge the two of, hey, I love Black culture. And I also love Nigerian culture. And what does that look like when, I go from Afrobeats to hip hop?
Right, yeah.
So it's so beautiful. But I will definitely say how I was raised definitely gave me a sense of pride and discipline and success that I know that my fellow African American friends don't have, aren't as in touch with, because there's so much history. There's so much history in slavery, the slave history that they've been disconnected from. And I'm always I'm always learning from African, all of my African American friends. So I'm trying to be very distinctive because yes, I'm Nigerian American, but the African American experience is so much different.
It's absolutely so different.
It's day and night.
Yeah, you can't even compare. It's very different.
I'm literally learning so much from my African American friends because I'm just okay, wait, hold on. Is this what am I supposed to be doing? Okay, what movies did I watch, or am I supposed to watch? What song am I supposed to listen to? How do I dress? There's so much into it that I love now, but I grew up hating because you're made fun of.
Right.
And you're girl, the amount of ridicule, I will say it wasn't until Black Panther, which was 2000 freaking 18.
Yeah.
Something like that, where it was okay, now we have pride in uplifting our Africans in the community, our actual Africans.
Right.
So for me, I see the pride of being African American, and I also see the pride of being Nigerian American, and then I'm just all right, I'm in this perfect spot that only I can bridge the understanding of what both look like for me.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I have all of these these values and beliefs that I love and I adore, but I also know have held me back in the sense of learning about the African American experience.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that I wish I dove into prior to, but I couldn't, because as a child, you only hear what your parents are saying, and your parents are saying what they saw on TV, or what they saw on freaking WhatsApp.
Yeah, exactly on WhatsApp.
It's the WhatsApp threads that I'm just mommy.
Right.
I understand what you're saying,
I have to be
but I
promise on silent.
I promise you, I would not accidentally walk into a road rage contest and be shot. It's so many things. Yeah. It's be fearful, do this. Right. I'm just why do we live in so much fear? I will say that I have also noticed that a lot of Nigerians live in fear.
Very cautious, overly cautious. Yeah.
Overly cautious. And it holds you back because it's you can't, you're so closed-minded sometimes because of the fear that you're not letting yourself experience the world. Yeah. And that was really me, even being in school. I was so fearful of everything that I was seeing or hearing that I wasn't experiencing the world the way I now am doing. But it took 20 20 plus years to like really get to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so beautiful for me to like experience this culture. And also girl, Melissa says that she's Bahamian and Nigerian, but she's actually like the biggest. Like, actually, no, Melissa, you're like the biggest, like, what is it, like, Black pride? Like, Melissa knows everything about Black culture in the sense of, like, whether it's African, she knows everything, like African American, like, and I'm just like, Melissa, how do you didn't you have a minor in like African American studies or something?
I did not. I wanted to.
Okay.
I did take an African American studies class, and that was like, oh my goodness. And I wanted to, but I would have graduated later by the time I decided to. But I am going to get a master's in African American.
You told me that. And I was like, wait, this only makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, don't you already know too much? Like, at what point are you going to stop?
People think that. Like, I have friends that be like, oh, you should talk to Melissa. She knows. Like,
she knows everything.
And I'm like, that's not true. But I think that's dope that, that's the perception. Because I do seek out knowledge because, like, I feel like there is so much that all of us, on all fronts, do not know about each other.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful that you, as a Nigerian or Nigerian American, is desiring to learn more about the African American experience, because I feel like a lot of times I would find myself like defending African Americans to my family, my Bahamian side and the Nigerian side.
Yes.
Because like a lot of them will be like, they're lazy, why don't they just pick themselves up and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, it's systemic. It's systemic. And they're like, what does that word mean? And then I remember one of my aunts during the pandemic, 2020, I'll never forget. She left me a voicemail and she was like, Melissa, we used to have arguments at Thanksgiving, especially during Thanksgiving, because that's where everybody is talking. And she would be like, but, they were talking about Black Lives Matter at church today, and I get it. Black lives do matter.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and it just meant so much to me, because there would be times where I'm like, they don't get it. Like, they don't get it. How do they not get it? Because they live in a country where they're the majority. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. They have no understanding. Yeah. So it's completely different. And so when we have more knowledge, we can have more empathy with each other, because the biggest enemy the biggest enemy can be ourselves.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, like, if you think about it, if you can allow a group of people to start fighting each other, you don't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the more that we can be educated of each other, because honestly, if you are coming from a different culture, like Nigerian, like if you are African and you are living in this country, you are very privileged because you know where you come from.
Yes.
You can, if something happens in the United States, you have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
You are extremely privileged. So us using our privilege to be like, okay, how can I learn about their experience and also like help be a bridge, because we're all African. Mm-hmm. We are all African. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I was telling Denisha, who's doing the podcast, or helping us record, that, she's Nigerian, because she probably is, or somewhere else in West Africa. But the more that we can just like stop dividing each other, like even my Bahamian culture, yes, my family's Caribbean, but guess what? They originated in Africa. You know what I'm saying? So like the division is what I am passionate about ending all that, because there's no way we can't move forward. And like again, it's beautiful that people like you are doing that, because it's gonna just create so much like love, and like, because I do feel like there's a lot of healing that needs to take place, because a lot of Nigerian Americans grew up with Black Americans making fun of them. So sometimes I'm in rooms and they're like, so, y'all, they feel like and then Black Americans feel like, we think we're better than them, or like we look down upon them. Yeah. And so there's just a lot of healing that needs to take place, because Black Americans didn't wake up one day and say Africans are the worst, or Africans are dirty, or whatever. They were conditioned to think like that. True. Everything is conditioning. So
that's true.
We have to show everybody grace. And it's a process, but
it is a process. And I'm still healing. I'm definitely still healing from the trauma I experienced growing up as an immigrant. Because for me, I was, as soon as I opened my mouth or like stepped in the school, there was always some sense of ridicule or some sense of like feeling alone or left out.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't like everyone. And I know that like, particularly just like, in the Black community, when it comes to like culture, there are things where it's like you have to do certain things. You have to listen to or hear or know certain things to prove your Blackness.
Yes.
So like being African and not knowing the Black experience in America, that like set me back so much because I was like, okay, well, like, I guess I'm not Black. So now like, why should I fight for y'all or like be friends with y'all when like y'all are telling me that I'm not Black and I'm from Africa? I flew over here from another continent and I know I'm Black, but like I don't share your experience. I don't share your culture. But it's not saying that like, you know, we're different because we're still the same. We're still the same. I'm just like in the generation that just immigrated and y'all's generation came forcefully years and years ago. Yeah. We're literally the same. Yeah. But like, I think for me, just trying to really set apart, like, stop thinking about the measures of Blackness and really just trying to, as an individual, talk to and listen to and hear each person's story. Yeah. Because each person's story is so different. It's so different. I don't care if African Americans in freaking California and Georgia, day and night, right? Day and night. Yeah. Like they don't like in California, like they don't know about like even the fraternities that were born in the South. They don't know about like so much about like slavery. Like it's like, yeah, California didn't have slavery. Yeah, there's so many things where it's like. There's such a divide everywhere. And I'm so tired of being like, well, I'm an immigrant, so like I'm African and I can't be Black and you're Black in California, but you're not really Black because you don't know the Blackness in the South. Yeah. There's so many layers to it. Yeah. There's so many layers. And I'm really just trying to like bridge it, you know, just by hearing each individual as I'm like learning about people and their experience.
Yeah, I guess a question that comes to mind that I want to ask you is because I'm like even trying to, how would I answer this? How would you define Blackness or what is being Black?
I mean, honestly, I feel like being Black it's hard because I feel like being Black can be like, yeah, you're Black. You look Black. Right. Because then we get into colorism. Right. Where it's like, okay, our light skin's Black, but yes, they're Black. But I think being Black is an experience. And but the experience has a range. Yeah. There's such a range of the experience where it's like, if you're raised by a Black mother, by a Black father, like, you know their experience and you have certain touches of like, those things. If you're raised by a white mother and a white mother and a Black father, your experience is different. You're still Black. You still have pieces of that experience. And when you really talk about even like saying the N-word sometimes, when like people are like, hey, you can't say the N-word because you don't know our experience as Black people, where it's like, we're still healing, yes, but like we need to start like bridging the experience part of it to know that like everyone's experience is going to be different. Yeah. And if I have Black in my blood, I'm Black. Even the white people be Black for real. Like I've met some white people who are Blacker than Black people. Blacker, you know, when it comes to like measuring the stick of like the Black experience. Yeah, yeah. And to me, I'm like, yeah, that's not Black white best friend. Like, and it's really an experience because when you talk about even allyship, it's like, a lot of allies understand the Black experience. I'm not gonna call them Black because they're not Black, but like it's still like an understanding of that experience. Yeah. And how would you answer that question?
Yeah, you know, the other day I was thinking about it, and when I say this, I'm not coming or saying that other races or other groups of people, like I'm not putting Black people over anyone. Yeah. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, the word says that we were made in God's image. And it's scientifically proven that the first humans originated in Africa.
I knew you were going to say
that's scientifically proven. So everybody that we see, all these racial groups came from Africa.
Yeah.
So when I think about Blackness, meaning like the image of, I mean, to me, like race is a social construct, which means like there is really no, it's subjective.
Yes.
If someone perceives you as Black, you're Black. But to me, it's like we're like the image of God.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we are the image of God. So, and again, not saying that other racial groups are not, but yeah. So, and I think, it is an experience. Yeah. And I think that it can't be measured and it can't be defined.
Yes.
And I think that we need to just like rest in the fact that that's enough. Like, if I see you and you're Black, it's enough. Like, we don't need to measure it. I don't need to qualify it, because that's like enslaving each other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. And what we really need to be doing is, because all of our experiences like is meant to provide unity for each other. Like, I did grow up listening to like rock music and different things that like Black people didn't listen to. So then when I hear like other Black people, like Rebecca, the other week, she was like singing Paramore, and I was like, oh my God,
I love Paramore.
I feel like Paramore has a hold on Black people. Yeah. Like Paramore is like, but like I feel like it makes other Black people be like, oh my God, like I grew up listening to rock music and that was okay. Like there is, first of all, Black people were the originators of rock music. There's so many things that we say is not Black that it's like, no, like we were the authors of a lot of these things. But yeah, anyway, I think that we need to remove all of this like measurement, because we're just putting unnecessary pressure on ourselves. Yeah. Which is probably like white supremacy at work.
There's a lot of words being used right now. I'm like, I don't even have time to break this down.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. But yeah, I think that like all of our experiences are valid, and like you said, like just listening to each other. Like, that's what it's about.
Yeah. And I think, like, even just our experience, you're a Nigerian Bahamian, African American. Like, that is your Black experience. Yeah. I'm Nigerian American. That's my Black experience. And there are African Americans who were born here who only know New York, only know Detroit, only know like all of these different areas like California. They only know those like places. Each and every single one of them are completely different. Yeah. Like, and there's even like regionalism that we don't recognize sometimes, where it's like there are all these different types of Black. And they're all like, even as an immigrant, I'm just like, I had to learn how to say like I'm Black and I'm proud, because there were like, there's so many different things that like divided me from like the Black experience growing up, because I wasn't born here. I really didn't like know about like a different world, living single, all of those things until I was in my teens, because my Africans around me weren't listening to that, weren't watching that. Like it was certain things where it's like, stepping into unity and just looking at, let me just learn about your experience. That's like helping us heal through all of the brokenness within the Black community. Cause like, and I feel like we are inching closer. Like we're inching so much closer. And like, even knowing like the values and beliefs that I've been instilled with as a Nigerian American, the amount of discipline, the amount of success, like the amount of like, just like, faith that I have in God, like all of those different things that I can now share and talk to with like someone who like knows nothing about being Nigerian, but they are trying to learn about their history and all of these different things, learn about African history. Like there's so many like threads that we can just like tie together. Yeah. Like by leaning on each other to just share that. And I'm excited. Like I'm just like so happy to like have this conversation, because there's like I was literally telling Rebecca, there's so much healing in just like releasing and just like talking through like our individual experiences, because that looks so different, not only for ourselves, but it's going to look different from how we push it out into the world.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, when I also think about being Black too, I think about we are a community of people that persist no matter what. Like, no matter the odds.
Yes.
When you think about the fact that specifically Black Americans' history and how they came to this country, the fact that there's even still Black people here is like, honestly, it like I can't even wrap my head around it. And it's also been proven. Like my mom, who's a doctor, has a lot of doctor friends, and one of her doctor friends, she's a pediatrician, and she was telling me, like, back in the day when she used to like deliver babies, the preemie babies that were Black were the ones that would like persist more. So it's literally embedded in our DNA to persist. And so when you think about like just the extreme amount of, I can't even articulate in words the amount of oppression that us as a community, all of us, like, you know, I think a lot of times Nigerian Americans specifically, because that's what I grew up around, yes, we came from a space of pride, but we also had like no knowledge that our ancestors, you know, were enslaved. It's actually not true. Like everybody was enslaved. All of us were colonized, but we have no knowledge of it. So all we think of is like, we are, you know, we know where we come from. So it's like, I feel like if we pair that knowledge, we have an understanding of our history, but we pair that from like, I know where I came from and I persisted, like, I feel like that just shifts like the energy. That's just the energy amongst all of us. Cause it's like when we see each other, it's like, wow, like we are really, like, I don't even think we really understand who we are, like what's in our DNA. It's powerful.
It's so powerful.
It's powerful. They try to destroy us. They try to enslave us.
Even going back to actually Africa, it's the same thing, just within different people. It wasn't the white people. It was us doing it to each other. So there's still a level of that at every single like playing field that you look at when you're looking at Black people. Wow.
Yeah, but it didn't work, and it's not gonna work. Like even, and that's why specifically in America, because that's what I'm most knowledgeable about when it comes to the systemic oppression, the things that they continually try to do to divide us. They do that because when we unite, it's like out of this world.
100%.
In the 60s, there's so much changes they made because of the way they united. So when we unite, it's like so it's beyond anything. So that's why they try to divide it. So we can't do it to ourselves.
Wow. Ooh, child. I'm like shivering because I'm just like, wow, that's so good.
But I want to say this specifically about you and I. What I love about us is that there's no competition. And I feel like that's rare for people. I mean, I feel like that amongst a lot of our group of friends. But I feel like specifically with you, I feel like there's like a lot of things that we may do in parallel, but I don't feel, it's almost like, okay, girl, like, let's do it together.
You
like,
said competition. I was like, I've never even thought about that. I want to support and uplift everything you do. I've never even looked at you like, oh, she's doing that, maybe.
Yeah, wow. I'm saying there's no, it's completely like absent. There's no parts of that. Yeah, which I think is beautiful. And I feel like I pray that continue, like that spreads amongst all of us. Especially in the entertainment industry.
Amen. Well, thank you so much. This was so beautiful and healing. I'm just like, I'm in awe. Because each conversation, I'm like, wow, I can't get any better than this. And then it's like, okay, so where's the playing field? Because right now, we like over it. But all right. Thank you guys for listening. And Melissa, thank you.
Thank you, boo.
Follow her on her socials, Melissa Effa on Instagram.
Melissa Eno Effa.
Eno Effa on Instagram.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Instagram. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, boo.